Just because I'm black doesn't mean that I have to agree with everything every black person says.
I had the opportunity to take some photographs of Stephen A. Smith, as well as listen in on this talk here regarding a lot of things in the world of broadcast sports and podcasting and so forth. And I found it fascinating to hear his thoughts on being the voice of the black community or not being the voice of the black community, as well as some of his other thoughts on how the community reacts to some of his takes. Pretty good stuff here. Sorry for the shaky cam, but yeah, check it out.
Did you speak for the black community when you speak? Are you speaking for you? What's the weight of your words?
Well, here's what I can tell you. As a black man who comes from a community that by and large has spent many, certainly not today, because everybody's got a podcast today and everybody thinks they got a voice today and everybody got a social media account and all this other stuff. But for far too long, if you were black, you felt voiceless. In 2003, when I was named the general sports columnist for the Philadelphia Inquirer, at that time, I was the 21st African American in this nation's history to be named the general sports columnist. That means we had a license to opine, to editorialize, and give our opinions. What people don't realize is that, you know, because of podcasting and everything else in between, .com, and you see folks on television giving their opinions with these debate shows and beyond, just 22 years ago, I was the 21st African American allowed to express my opinion in sports. Think about that. So times have changed, no question about it, but it still doesn't mean that you feel heard. So what I try to do is let people know I'm a black man, I'm a brother, and there's an authenticity that I bring to the table as it pertains to making sure that I articulate to you as the audience where that perspective is coming from and what that perspective actually is from this particular community. What I don't feel is an obligation to agree with my community. Just because I'm black doesn't mean that I have to agree with everything every black person says. Just because I'm black doesn't mean that if you're white or you're Hispanic or you're Asian, you're wrong. The fact is you might be right, and I'm gonna listen to it. That's why you see me, even though I'm on First Take and I put folks on the hot seat when I'm doing my podcast. Hell, I interviewed Ben Shapiro. I was on the Megyn Kelly show. I show up on Sean Hannity's show. I show up on Chris Cuomo's show. I spoke to Jake Tapper last week. I can't even count the amount of interviews that I have to turn down because I don't have the time. But I'm not running from anybody. Why? Because you have a right to want to question me about what my perspectives are, where I'm coming from, and why I deduce what I deduce and where I come from. You have a right to do that. And I believe I have an obligation to make sure I disseminate that message to the masses. If I feel this way, stand on it. That's how it is. What do we see from politicians today? Well, you know, I'm right. I'm a Republican. I'm going to go on Fox. I'm a liberal. I'm going to go on MSNBC or CNN. No, take your behind on the opposite side. If you're right, stand on it. What you running for? To me, that's the kind of stuff that we need to see. And so for me, that's how I come with it. And there are times when the black community doesn't agree with some of my perspectives. Let me be very, very clear. Do I like that? Not particularly. But I'm asking myself, am I right or am I wrong? If I'm wrong, I'll own it and say, I didn't think about it this way. Here's what the right answer is. If I'm right, I don't give a damn. I stand on what I stand on. I mean what I mean. I say what I say. And I don't run from it. That's why I have my podcast. That's why I have my YouTube channel. That's why I work for iHeartRadio. That's why I'm still at ESPN. I'm not running. I'm here. And you're going to have to deal with me.